Hello again. Welcome back to another episode of The Works. I'm Jim.
I'm Diane.
And since we last chatted, hello to South Africa. Picked up a set of listeners in South Africa. So now, I guess that makes every continent except for South America, right?
I haven't checked all of them. So.
Well, how many continents are there?
Is it 7? I'm so
Seven
bad
seas? Okay, no, that's all right. We'll get into that some other time. So yeah, it was a place called Nelspruit or Mumpala, but they renamed it. It was named Mumpala, South Africa, and then in 2009 they renamed it to Nelspruit, or as the natives pronounce it, right?
You're bad.
Yeah. It's 200 miles east of Johannesburg. That's the only thing I know about South Africa, Johannesburg.
I am notoriously bad at geography, so.
But that's way south, so it's nice and warm there. Or actually now it's the other way. It's, well, we're now officially at the halfway point. The sun is like halfway, the equator, right?
Yeah, we finally crossed over into spring.
Yeah. Again, not to time stamp our episodes, but yeah, I guess I'm giving it away. It's March 2026. Do y'all have a bracket left? Because I don't.
I do.
NCAA tournament, fun
and
time of the year.
And I have no skill in tracking who's playing basketball and where. I pick ridiculously, and it works out.
Oh, you're proud of it. That's all
Yeah.
that matters. And who do you have? Because I had Duke, which they're still in it, but I had I did take High Point to a I think the 16 or at least the 8, maybe the 8 I thought, and they were a fun little Cinderella for a while.
Yeah, this last round.
And Florida lost last night.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, I won 11 games in this last round, but I hate to say it, Ohio peeps, but I picked Michigan. For those of you who don't know, Ohio State, Michigan have huge rivalry. You're never supposed to root for Michigan, but oh well.
Yeah, and then she got upset when I didn't have Ohio State going past the first round. But Miami of Ohio was fun. Mm-hmm. They played in the play-in games.
Oh, yeah.
That was a fantastic game. The kids could
shoot
three.
But, you know, day.
They were shooting threes all day long, and then that second round, or their first round, I guess, they couldn't shoot a three.
Yeah, it was sad.
I was making a comment about the color of the courts, and I don't know if that threw everybody up. I mean, it was airball. As opposed to 2 nights prior, everything was nothing but net. But the kids were playing. It was rough to watch.
Now, my thoughts on basketball, the sneaker squeak drives me crazy. But I think they should all just run a few miles to get tired and then play 5 minutes of basketball, which is truly 20 minutes of basketball. But, yeah.
Well, that's the sad part. I mean, again, not to say that we don't watch the beginning of it, and there's nothing funner than those first 2 days where it's game after game after game. But really, it's just the last 2 minutes for the most part. I mean, unless it's a complete blowout, but it's the last 2 minutes that are fun. And even that Florida game last night was last second.
But it was weird. Down here, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings. We always call it BW3 because it used to be Buffalo Wild Wings and WEC. But we went on a Friday evening, and it's the middle of March Madness, and 4 of the TVs had a Humana infomercial nonstop playing.
Well, but
and
it was
then
football.
3 channels, an old football game. It's like it's a sports bar on a Friday night during March Madness. Even if you don't know anything about sports and you're managing that location, put on basketball until somebody complains. Don't put it on Humana infomercial. Okay, I'm done with my rant.
Well, okay, and you got me going because the whole Buffalo Wild Wings, as a franchise, I've always been a huge fan. Great food. I mean, and they changed their menu. Outstanding service. This last time for us, we were at Gastonia one. Not good at all. Just absolutely. And it wasn't like, unfortunately, it wasn't a packed house.
No.
As a matter of fact, they had the TVs up so loud that I think they were trying to mimic the fact they had other people there. But the wait time, it was absolutely. The food came out okay. The wings are absolutely, again, you go to a wing place, you're going to get wings, and they're fantastic. They do a great job. It's like getting a burger at a fish place. You don't want to do it. So everything else, I think, is okay, but they do great wings, and our daughter's meal was completely ruined, but that's a whole other story. The thing about the South, and again, specifically, I think, Charlotte area, it's NASCAR down here. I mean, as much as we hate to admit that NASCAR is a big thing, and it's not that, again, you go over to the Triad area, let's face it, it's Duke, it's High Point. It would have been a fantastic place to go and watch the games there.
Yeah,
the
not
excitement,
Gastonia.
I mean, let's face it, the Triad. I mean, we have, North Carolina had 5 teams.
Right.
There's North Carolina, there's UNC, High Point, like I said, Duke, and hell, this Queens College, which I'm trying to, that's somewhere close to North in the Carolinas. I don't remember their first year in.
Yeah,
but it's because
in the
they're different
areas,
division.
I'm sure that more people were watching basketball, but in Gastonia, there's not like a college nearby that people would be. I don't know. It was just shocking.
Oh, and not to jump topics too quickly, today we want to talk about medical myths.
Yeah, snake oil.
Things over the ages that we all believed in, and even now, but we'll get into that in a second. Barry Manilow is making his first album in 15 years.
Wow.
I don't know if his face is going to be able to do that.
Man can't blink.
But 33, okay. This will be his 33rd album.
Okay.
That's a tremendous career.
Yeah.
But first time in 15 years. And yeah, I mean, again, that's when music was different, his style. And it's a fun show. I have to admit that in my early 20s, I went to one in Cleveland.
Oh, that would have been fun.
Oh, yeah, when you're half the age of everyone else in the audience, but I was going for somebody else. But anyway, yeah, Barry Manilow. Oh, and then back here at home, well, for all of us, gas prices are ridiculous. The damn Iran war.
Don't call it a war.
Well, whatever.
Skirmish.
But what's interesting is the European countries, because of the high cost of gas now, the fact that the Strait of Hormuz or Hermione or whatever it is can't get any oil through. A lot of governments are pushing companies to go to a 4-day work week. Well, remember the days of COVID. And we all did that. And of course,
we worked at home.
Then the companies got pissed because we were all working at home and actually accomplishing more. But, we made that middle management layer freak out because they had nothing to do by walking around and checking on people. And now, because of the gas prices, and it makes sense, save gas, stay at home. But, we did talk about that too, the effect on the environment by not driving.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily help, but at least, again, in this concept here is we're not going to use as much gas.
Right. And save some money.
And I know the electric car people are out there anyway.
Because it runs on jelly beans.
Yeah. Anyway, medical myths.
Yeah.
The, things, and again, anybody have any ideas that, and if we don't hit one, or if there's one that always drove you nuts, like, remember Mikey from, and this isn't a myth, it's more, well, I guess it's a medical thing. Remember Mikey, the life cereal guy and Pop Rocks and
he
Coke?
likes it.
Right. But then, for whatever reason, we had that issue with the Pop Rocks being dangerous, and he drank Coke, and then his stomach exploded. Yeah, which never really happened. But myths like when you swallow gum, that it stays in your stomach for 7 years?
Right.
That's not true, right?
Yeah, you learn that when you have a child that's still in diapers and they had a piece of gum and swallowed it. Well, you sure do see it. Comes right out.
But it's been in the news lately because they've come to the conclusion it's like 3 days, that it literally stays in your stomach like 3 days. I mean, do we not have anything better to study than how long gum sticks in your stomach? But yeah, so, we all grew up afraid to swallow our gum because it would stay in your stomach for 7 years, or,
watermelon seeds.
Seed, that was
it's going to grow in your intestines.
Being exposed to cold weather makes you sick.
Right.
Remember that?
Oh, if you sit on cold cement, you'll get the piles.
Well, I always heard hemorrhoids, but maybe
Well,
that was a
that's-
regional thing.
Well, that's piles are hemorrhoids.
Oh,
I don't know
well,
why they
I
used to
did.
call them piles, but
Okay.
yeah, don't make a face. Your face will freeze like that.
And some of the newer ones, like vaccines, actually cause autism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cracking your knuckles.
Will cause arthritis.
Well,
That's
we know
what they
that's
said.
not true.
And something else will make you go blind.
Well, that is partially true. Kidding. Sugar makes kids hyperactive.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily. That's not true, right?
let's not forget about the red dye. That,
Antiperspirant gives you breast cancer. That's
Oh.
not true. And again, these are now. I'm just going to.
now
I'm
you're
running through
starting
a
on
quick
the
list.
fringe. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm going through that. Kind of the classics we all grew up with, right? Sitting too close to the TV will ruin your eyesight.
Yeah.
Ulcers are caused by spicy foods.
Mm-hmm.
Bottled water is better than tap.
Well, until you run, the tests on it, and you realize that bottled water has more particulates than a lot of city water. But
Well, and that's a fun discussion because the whole fluoride crap in you're not supposed to swallow fluoride. And again, I guess
you're
why,
not
why
supposed
isn't
to
this
swallow
one
your
showing up?
toothpaste because
this
of
one
the
pissed
fluoride.
this one pissed me off because again the concept that whoever or wherever somebody sold municipalities fluoride to stick in the treated water. And funny because the first time we moved down south, you find yourself not on city utilities. We have a well,
Yeah, we have well water.
and one of the first things the dentist always asks, "Are you drinking well water?" And of course, I think that's dollar signs in their eyes because they want to have, more cavities in their kid. As a matter of fact, I would propose from a study our kids have no cavities,
Right.
Because and it has nothing to do with fluoride in the water. The absolute opposite.
Well, we live in modern civilization where there's toothpaste and dental hygiene and checkups. You don't need fluoride in the water for one. Two, you're not supposed to swallow your toothpaste because of the fluoride. So why would we put it in the drinking water? But anyway.
Alcohol warms you up. Now I'm getting into some of those are the classics. Now I'm going to
Right.
get into some of the quackery. As a matter of fact, I looked at you mentioned snake oil,
Mhm.
right? And that apparently that phrase comes from the fact that there was a gentleman who studied Hopi medicine. This was back in late 1800s, and he kind of got into the holistic thing, and maybe it was the ayahuasca, but that'd be an interesting
Was that
topic.
the Clark Stanley?
Yeah, I think it was. But anyway, so the term snake oil salesman comes from the fact that you had this guy that learned the ways of the Hopis and the holistic, spiritual, natural resources for treatment. I mean, junipers for headaches that the natives would use. So he decided,
and the bark for the acetylsilic acid.
Sure,
That's
sure.
aspirin. Yeah.
but he decided one day he was going to, because he had noticed in some of the Hopi tribes they were using snake oil. Well, he literally thought that was you cut the snake in half and you squeeze it, and that was the snake oil. Well, he literally did that at the World's Fair in the late 1800s, and that's how the concept of selling these tonics came about. Was that he would squeeze the snake and it was creating snake oil.
And then I saw that the FDA finally, the Bureau of Chemistry, which was the precursor of the FDA in 1960, they analyzed his snake oil,
Uh-huh.
and it was mineral oil,
Oh, it had no.
1% fatty oil,
Yeah.
capsaicin from chili peppers, turpentine, and camphor.
Well, so this warms me up into the whole idea of going down the paths of, and of course, we have these today. I guess you could say the vaccine one and autism had gained some traction.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? The horse penicillin was a cure.
Ivermectin.
Yeah, was a cure for COVID.
Mm-hmm. A
And
treatment for it, yeah.
so the fun part of the conversation is if I may take us down the path of some of the fun ones that I can't believe we ever believed that sort of
Okay.
thing. Which
I'm
again,
right, yeah.
well, again, I'm not distracting you from.
No.
Do you have a so? And I might go in and out because some of these have some today correlations.
Right.
But for example, like the tapeworm diet. In the early 20th century, people thought swallowing a tapeworm was a great way to
lose
weight.
Oh my God.
You never heard that one?
No.
How about the early 1900s again? And I have an ad. We could post this on the website and Facebook. But the common relief for hay fever, asthma, and rose fever are Page's asthma cigarettes. Cigarettes for asthma. It was believed. No, I mean, and this is early as 1900 because, and here's the interesting twist behind a lot of this, is it wasn't until late 1910, 1911, I think, that the Food and Drug Administration passed a law that you had to label what was in your thing. For the first time, you had to actually put the ingredients.
What was in it. Okay.
So maybe, again, that's why some of this stuff
got by.
But in reality, it was the tobacco industry also promoted cigarettes in a way to, and in theory, what do? They open your airway while you're actually smoking for that minute because it's poison. It's right. And your body wants to get rid of it. And the fine folks at Philip Morris decided that, hey, that's a great way to alleviate asthma symptoms. Of course, that's not true.
Take a puff.
Yeah, take a puff. So yeah, so an ad for Page's asthma cigarettes.
Asthma cigarettes
for 49 cents a pack.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, we know a lot of things that we do today that I'm just amazed. You go get your hair done and you get to hear the latest in beauty and whatnot and catch up on things. But so many people follow health advice from TikTok, which I don't understand. I guess if I watched more TikTok, then I would have more to bring to the table of trends that really, what are they thinking? But I'm sure we'll be full of, years from now, people will finally.
Well, I think the only advantage in today's media, the immediacy of such thing, is that the crazy shit can get ferreted out rather quickly, or it becomes viral, and we all talk about it for
right,
a while. And I can't think of the last thing other than the ivermectin that Rogan was a big promoter of that it helped because he took it and he stayed off COVID for.
Well, and nowadays it's supplements that help with everything, whether they do or they don't. And I just know some of the surface ones, not the tickety talk trends, but whether it's beets, the super beets for better performance and stamina. Now it does increase blood flow, and it supposedly fights inflammation, and it's a source of potassium. But I'm sure if you eat real food, you'll get those same benefits. It doesn't have to be a supplement. How about try eating regular food? Some people get so holier than thou that they want these natural remedies. And I'm like, well, your natural remedy comes in a processed pill. So how natural is that? But so I know about beets and super beets, and then, the apple cider vinegar, whether you do a tablespoon or a gummy, that it lowers your glucose levels after a meal and decreases cholesterol. But it doesn't control blood pressure like they think it does. But it just, I don't know. It's hard to keep up with.
A lot of, I think there's this, again, instinctual desire to want the quick fix,
right,
i.e. the pill. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the back to nature angle that it's real. It's a beet. I mean, when's the last time I ate a beet was 25 years ago. Right. Who eats beets? It's like back in the 70s, I swear to God, liver and onions. Who the hell eats liver today?
No, it's too high in
you
cholesterol,
did.
But yeah.
Well, but see, so again, I hate to bring this up, but cholesterol is good for you too.
Right.
If you don't have cholesterol, your muscles won't get its nutrients,
right, and we need it.
So, and again, you got an industry setting these, and certainly, I'd love to hear comments, pro or con. Tell me I'm full of crap, but everyone's made differently and everyone absorbs food differently. But of course, that brings up a whole other thing about weight loss. Weight loss has, over the years, like I said, you start with the tapeworm thing. Everyone wants to be thin, right? And so you had something crazy like the tapeworm wanting us, and or whether it was back in the 70s, 80s, everyone was doing amphetamines or
The fen.
well, and that's an interesting one with and of course today, let's face it, all these GLPs they call them that work on your brain or mechanical measures to deal with food is what it boils down to. And again, it comes back to this whole medical myth thing, right? So, again, not to go too far off the wait. You were talking about beets. So again, the natural thing. I think that's where we all want to improve ourselves,
Right.
and we want to make it simple,
Right.
simple as possible. Some of the other weird ones that I had looked up, milk transfusions. Did you know that was a big
What?
thing? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Is that like a coffee enema?
In the late 19th century, milk was believed to be the perfect substitute for blood.
What?
The
Oh my
fatty
God.
oils, the qualities would help the white blood cells. And there were a couple of instances where it was successful. However, there were many,
Probably.
many other deaths too, because they what they would do is inject some milk in the patient immediately that looked like it helped, and then they then decided to inject they added morphine and whiskey to the milk, which
Oh
made
my
which
God.
made the patients perk up instantly. But needless to say, there were some major complications, and most people ended up dying. But the milk transfusion thing was a big thing.
You remember lobotomies were big all the way up until 1970.
So yeah, talk about again the physical, medical treatments besides like a milk transfer, is just it's crazy. Transfusion, to your point,
Infusion, yeah.
to your point, the
The
lobotomy, which is
going
again
with an
think-
ice
again,
pick through
yeah.
the
But it wasn't initially. They didn't do the ice picks initially,
Mm-mm.
right?
But the idea was that he wanted to bring it to people that were suffering the most and they couldn't afford a hospital setting.
And you said the guy that originated, not the guy that performed it, but the guy that originated, you said won a Nobel Prize. Right.
Yeah. That originated the procedure. Now the American
Which
guy.
now, Trump, do you really think you really want that same prize?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But the American guy that brought it here, he decided that you need to make it cheaper. That nobody can afford the hospital stay. So he would roll up to supermarkets and set up outside. Not outside, but just a little off the frontal lobe.
But what was the point? What was, remember they did this on cadavers initially to practice. So they took this, like you said, ice pick instrument through the eye sockets, and the goal was there was the connection of the frontal lobe to the thalamus, which is where the brain has most of its emotion. So if you knock that out, then
It calmed down.
you would, in theory, not be depressed, right? Because you wouldn't have worries. And it would help. It would help with sleepiness. The basic things everyone that back then was upset about, being depressed or sleeplessness or agitation, by
this
by literally,
psychosurgery. Yeah. And they
breaking
said the
that-
majority of it was women too, because
But patients were often left in a vegetated state,
yeah,
right?
Rose Kennedy.
But
That's a prime
what?
example.
So what was the reason that this came to a crashing halt? This practice. Do you remember his most famous victim or patient? I guess Rosemary Kennedy.
Yeah.
So he screwed her up big time, and they finally pulled the plug on that concept.
Yeah.
Which makes me, again, not to get philosophical, but this whole idea of gender transformation of these physicians that want to help, I just don't understand. But that's a whole other topic.
On children, no. Absolutely not on children. Once you're old enough and you can pay for your own insurance,
Well, again,
if you want to do it,
Okay,
fine,
but my
not
analogy here
children.
is that we thought lobotomies were great back then.
Until
Jesus
they
Christ.
weren't.
They're not.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the procedure of the lobotomy. Well, shit. Shock treatments. I didn't realize that shock treatments were for impotence.
What?
That's what they were invented for. Men would wear these.
Instead of a little blue pill, you get electroshock
see, that's
therapy.
And again, forgive me. I believe this is a true story. The original birth control pill was invented for or tested on, designed for men.
Oh.
But too many men got sick, didn't want to take it every day, blah, blah, blah. And then they decided, the men who were making the pill decided, let's make the women take it. And in reality, whether it's holding back an egg or holding back the swimmies, that's the concept. But
right.
But this is obviously before the pill. This was back in the late 1800s. 1800s, you'd see ads in newspapers for electric belts for weak men. That was their, girly man.
Oh.
But the shock treatment was for impotence. Help get you there. But it was also, at times it was used for mental issues too.
Right.
But that was the
yeah.
main, that was the original reason behind that particular procedure. Speaking of procedures, before I go back to one of, I had no idea this existed, but smoke enemas were a big thing.
Smoke enemas.
Back in
I thought that
late
was
18
just a saying, somebody blowing smoke up your rear.
And maybe that's where they got the saying, because now it's not smoke going up your ass. Literally, it's boiled tobacco infused water. So the water was infused through a boiling process with tobacco. That was shot up into your, looking up your address, and people swear by him because, again,
wow,
it was, anything goes in rectally, and what's the
rectum
famous,
dang near killed him.
that's your joke, and anything that goes
it absorbs that much faster
up the exit, it goes, and the funny thing is that they were doing it for health reasons, but then eventually they did this as a cure for opium addiction.
What?
Yeah, I can't make it up. It's truth.
That is hysterical. Forget about Narcom. Just
My favorite one, and unless you had some more that you wanted to, was Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Early 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, late 19th century. So around 1870, this was invented. It was a popular remedy for babies experiencing anything from teething to diarrhea.
Okay.
And I have a little ad. In the 1840, this is in the Palladian Gazette, which is a New Jersey, Cliffside, New Jersey newspaper. Soothing syrup should always be used for children's teething. It soothes the child before. It soothes the child, softens the gums, makes the pain go away, cures wind, colic, and is the best remedy for diarrhea. 25 cents a bottle.
Was it whiskey?
It was mostly whiskey and morphine.
Oh my God.
And again, it was invented. This is the whole before the Food and Drug Act came in late 1910. And believe it or not, it was still on the shelves in this country until 1935. You could buy it, and I have a picture of the actual bottle.
Heck, our Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it.
But, so yeah, Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup, the problem was you'd give it to the baby, it would certainly soothe them, and most of them didn't wake up. So it was eventually called the baby killer. But yeah, it was then, instead of for babies, and this is clever, the company that started this, then it was started to be used for other things like clean teeth, freshens your breath, relieves constipation in older kids and adults. But again, it was mostly morphine and alcohol.
Jeez. Good golly.
So, yeah. So I was going to say, did I hit everyone that those are kind of the fun? Oh, the heroin. Like you said, heroin was a big, cure for the cough. Heroin was used for many things from a medical perspective that, let's face it, we know now that it's not a good thing.
Right. And the Coca-Cola syrup, that was an elixir first before it was not recreational beverage, but it did have cocaine in it.
Well, but and Bayer started to bottle it as aspirin back in the late 1800s. 1898, it started to produce a heroin-laced aspirin, which which replaced the less addictive morphine one. So there was the morphine aspirin, and then we're getting better.
It's healthy.
Certainly, it's healthy.
It's healthy.
And so the healthier version was the heroin-laced aspirin that came out. But again, until the FDA put a ban on heroin and the labeling of ingredients, in particular dangerous materials in your product, that stayed on the shelves until 1920. Amazing.
Wow.
And I'm certain you go to some of these garage sales, flea markets. I mean, who has a medicine chest anymore, right? Or was it medicine cabinet?
Cabinet, yeah.
Who has a medicine cabinet in their house? Do we even know what that is? That was the mirror that you opened.
Mm-hmm. And you put all your stuff in it.
You put all your stuff in it. Does anybody have one? I don't. You don't.
Mm-mm.
Not that I'm aware of.
It was convenient.
No, it's a nice idea. It's, again, mirror in the bathroom. Great idea. The fact that it opened and you put your pills, but it was that my issue was that it would only fit certain size prescription bottles. You know, once you start getting into wanting to put other things in there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did you have any others?
No, I'm just, floored that we make such great strides and to hear where we came from. And I wonder what it's going to be like, what we're going to look at in 10, 15 years that we're like, geez, what were we thinking? But.
Oh, this reminds me, we did get a winner of the hot sauce contest.
Congratulations.
From the, from Kentucky. And they have their bottle of choice. So what we're going to do is we wanted to give away a couple. So if you go to maidennc.com, first one to drop us a note with the flavor they want to try, we will send you a bottle. Just drop us a note at Jim or Diane, not Jim or Diane is the two email addresses. One is Jim at theworkspodcast.com or Diane at theworkspodcast.com. How about we do this? The first one for you and the first one for me, 2 bottles, one each, hot sauce flavor of your choice from Made NC. But
you won't be disappointed. It's good stuff.
Until next time, this is Jim.
I'm Diane.
You've been listening to another edition of The Works.